I'm a supporter of the ideas presented by the Zeitgeist movement and the Venus Project. I'm not in any way a spokesperson for either organization, and what I say may or may not be concepts shared by either of these organizations. You are encouraged to take everything I say here at face value. Governance, meaning the process of governing or the process of managing. It's about how society moves from point A to point B in an orderly fashion. When trying to explain how the governance of a resource-based society is carried out, it's often very hard because it lacks many parallels to the current way of governance. For clarity, let's take a look at the modern form of governance. We currently live within a monetary system on a combined national and global level. A monetary system is any system that uses some sort of currency for trade and exchange between organizations or individuals within that system. For example, if you trade fiat money, gold, fruits, seashells, or energy units. Within the monetary system there are a lot of subsystems or institutions. For example, you most often have a market, a jurisdictional system, and a government. Now, the government can take many different shapes, from dictatorial kings and military leaders to more democratic parliaments, congresses, to flat hierarchy ones, such as direct democracy systems and alike. In a monetary system, these different institutions of market, law, government, etc. are rather separate. While they certainly interact a great deal, it's at the same time very easy to distinguish between them. On the other hand, a resource-based society is very different. First of all, and most importantly, it's much more entwined with nature. Members of such a system realize that while we can bend and shape nature a lot to suit our needs, we are still completely dependent on it, and to live well, we must maintain a healthy relationship with it. Secondly, a resource-based society is one system, fully integrated. There are no subsystems or institutions, since all mechanisms work towards maintaining and optimizing this mutualistic symbiosis between human civilization and nature. Optimizing this mutualistic symbiosis. What the hell does that mean? Who decides what constitutes an improvement for society? It's true that every society, monetary or not, wants to move from worse to better. But the measurement of what's better is quite subjective and arbitrary. In a resource-based society, the main focus is to ensure that all humans are able to live the most happy and healthy lives possible. The inhabitants fully recognize that we are all in fact humans, and a problem can affect any human, no matter their age, gender, skin color, cultural background, etc. And also that any person with a problem will adversely affect other people around her. So it's truly in each and everyone's best interest to help humanity as a whole towards living as healthy and happily as possible. This is a core fundamental premise of a resource-based economy, meaning that this must be a commonly shared value before or during the implementation of said system, rather than something that can be decided upon when in a resource-based society. A resource-based economy cannot exist if this is not already an accepted notion. So this aspect is not part of any form of decision-making within a resource-based society. But still, who makes the decisions? I know it's really irritating to hear, but that question is malformed and assumes a simplified answer. Hear me out. As I said previously, this system doesn't have any subsystem. It's fully integrated, and one could say the resource-based society is self-governing. It doesn't have a government, and there's no central institution of power or control. Since there are no people in control, there's no power to be had and or abused. Meaning, corruption is designed out of the system. But still, to maintain this sustainable balance with nature and to ensure that all humans' necessities are as satisfied as possible, we need means of communicating with nature. This tool of communication is nothing fancy. We've used this for hundreds of years, and it's really what has enabled us to reach our current high level of civilization. Through the use of science and technology, we can model and mimic nature. Because the truth is that we live in the dictatorship of nature, and the only way to play well in this game of life is for us to understand the rules as thoroughly as possible. Currently, human brains are extremely limited and completely lacks the computational power to make advanced analysis from a large array of variables. Method like multivariate data analysis can compare the correlation of thousands of variables and map extremely complicated system describing models.
Another method called life cycle analysis calculates the environmental impact of any product from cradle to grave. Science has an amazing capability of quantifying complex problems and make them computable.
So with this in mind, most of today's decision making really becomes obsolete. All basic fundamental decisions that deal with the maintaining and regulation of the system can be fully assigned to computers and machines in support of this fundamental goal of maintaining and improving the standard of living for every person on the planet. So will the system be controlled by either supercomputers or scientists? It's a very important point that science, computers and technologies are used for measurement, and these are merely communication tools so that we are able to speak with nature. We're never bound by computers, we're bound by natural law. No computer would ever say that someone is not allowed more rare earth metal layered quantum solar panels, but it might say that there's a risk of creating a scarcity if we continue to use said resource. To fully understand a resource-based economy, one needs to understand the applied resource mechanism for distribution and management, and that everything truly is fully integrated as one system, as I said before. I won't cover all of that in this video because I consider that a tangent and I don't want to talk for a week. So no, there's no supercomputers ordering people around. If you still feel unsure about what this means, consider the following example. You're at a supermarket shopping for food. You're using a self-scanner which tells you what you have bought, what each product costs, and the total cost. All prices are available for free to you. You can make the calculations yourself. So when you see that you've shopped for, let's say, $25 according to the self-scanner, it's you who have decided that. You're the one who stuffed those items in your shopping trolley.
The self-scanner didn't make any decisions. It simply arrived at the totals. It's the same with scarcity of resources on a global scale. A supercomputer doesn't make the decision that there's very little rare earth metal layered quantum solar panels left. It's us as a society who hasn't managed our resources and production efficiently enough. The disparity in the world is our collective decision, and before we realize that as a species, we can't take the necessary collective decision to resolve it. So, who will make the decisions? I feel like you're avoiding my question. There really isn't so much about making decisions as arriving at decisions. This means that decisions won't be taken on the basis of opinions and beliefs, rather on facts and measurements, scientific observation that we all can test and agree on. So the person behind any type of change loses its importance in a resource-based society. It's a proposal or idea itself which is important. This system is an open contribution system, meaning that rather than letting everyone cast their vote and let selected few do what they believe is best, the system encourages anyone who wants change to contribute, not by votes, but by actions. Anyone can be a part of the process at arriving at decisions, since it's not restricted to academicians in white coats or economists in black suits. Everyone with knowledge or skills within a certain area is encouraged to work with problems in that area that will help humanity and in turn oneself as well. Okay, sure, anyone can help arriving at decisions, but how do we choose what to do? We can't do everything at once. What's most important? A common straw man that often arises in these discussions is the claim that a resource-based economy would be perfect, some sort of flawless utopia. This is ridiculous, and I can't emphasize this enough. All social systems are emergent, and they are under constant change and challenge. A resource-based system is far more efficient and caring than the current monetary system, but there will still be problems that need resources, energy, and time to be solved. It's the human urge to overcome challenges and understand the unknown which has driven our species from the plains of Africa 200,000 years ago to today's global technological society, and this trend will very likely continue in the future. Since there is no perfect system, there will always be challenges that, in most situations, can be prioritized based on their severity in a resource-based society. And of course, we would never focus on solving just one problem at a time if we weren't forced into that approach by some unforeseen circumstance, which would be something much rarer when we facilitate a good relationship with nature. And think about it. A large disaster is always a tragedy. It really isn't a matter of which societal system you're currently in. But what a resource-based society does is to put every effort into avoiding such scenarios in the first place. So the question you have to ask yourself is really just, what type of society do you want to live in?
From an extraterrestrial perspective, our global civilization is clearly on the edge of failure in the most important task it faces, preserving the lives and well-being of its citizens and the future habitability of the planet. But if we're willing to live with the growing likelihood of nuclear war, shouldn't we also be willing to explore vigorously every possible means to prevent nuclear war? Shouldn't we consider in every nation major changes in the traditional ways of doing things, a fundamental restructuring of economic, political, social, and religious institutions? How would we explain all this to a dispassionate extraterrestrial observer? What account would we give of our stewardship of the planet Earth? We have heard the rationales offered by the superpowers. We know who speaks for the nations, but who speaks for the human species? Who speaks for Earth?